The valley lay quiet in the lavender hush of early evening, the kind of stillness that made even the wind hesitate. Eli Harrow stood on the porch of his worn wooden cabin, leaning against the railing he'd repaired too many times to count. His hat tilted low over his brow, he listened to the silence, until the silence trembled. Not the way a passing cart shook the dirt road, not the way cattle thundered in stampede, but deeper, heavier, a rolling quake that made pebbles dance at his boots. He straightened, breath-catching. She was coming. Across the basin beyond the line of pine and shadow, a figure crested the ridge with the slow, burdened steps of someone fighting their own strength. Silra appeared like a moving cliff, tall as a barn, her form outlined against the sinking sun, her hair reflecting streaks of molten gold where the light struck her braid. Even at such a distance, Eli could see how her shoulders hunched, how each stride carried unease instead of confidence. Giants rarely looked anxious. Silra looked terrified. Eli swallowed hard. Their meeting had been arranged months ago, a pact long set between her mountain clan and his valley homeland. A giant bride would be sent to anchor peace, and him, a lonely rancher with nothing but land and a quiet life, had been chosen, not because he wanted it, but because he had no one left to say otherwise. Still, he hadn't expected to feel protective of her before she even reached him. The earth rumbled under her last steps as she crossed the final slope. Trees bent as she lowered herself beneath their branches. A gust of wind swept Eli's coat back as Silra neared, her shadow stretching over the cabin like a passing cloud. Eli, her voice boomed across the clearing, though he could hear strain in it, like someone swallowing pain between syllables. Make it stop. He steadied his hat with one hand. Make what stop? Silra pressed a trembling hand twice the size of Eli's entire chest against her hip. A leather satchel hung there carved with symbols that pulsed a faint, eerie blue. He'd heard giants carried binding stones in those satchels. He'd heard they anchored a bride to new land. But no one had warned him they could misbehave. It's moving again, she said, voice shaking so hard it rippled through the air. It inches down. There, deeper, pulling, I can't hold it back. I don't know what's wrong. Eli's chest tightened. Is it hurting you? She shook her head, but her massive braid trembled like a rope in a storm. Not pain. It's like being pulled by the soul, like it wants to plant itself through me into the dirt. That isn't supposed to happen until ceremony. Not before. She grimaced as another pulse of light flickered from the satchel. Brighter this time. The ground trembled beneath her knee as she knelt, trying to ease the weight on it. Eli stepped forward without thinking, boots crunching over gravel. Let me see, he said. She hesitated. Giants were used to towering over everything, not lowering themselves to be inspected by someone so small, but the fear in her eyes outweighed her pride. Slowly, carefully, she lowered herself even closer, her breath gusting warm across him like a rolling draft from a furnace. Eli climbed onto a fallen log to reach the satchel. The leather was thick, stitched with strands of hardened vine and something that looked like metallic thread. When he pressed his hand against it, heat crawled beneath his palm, alive, throbbing like a heartbeat that didn't belong to Silra. It's warm, he murmured. It's awakening, she whispered. But too soon, Eli. If it sinks deeper before we're joined, it won't just bind me to your land. It might bind me here forever. No return to my clan, no choice. Just stuck, even if you don't want that. He looked up sharply. Who said I don't want you here? Her breath hitched. The wind fell still as if listening. But then the stone pulsed again, stronger, and Silra flinched. She drove her fingers into the earth to steady herself, and a crack split the ground beneath her touch. The satchel jerked downward on its strap, the runes flaring bright white. Eli, she gasped, voice breaking. It's slipping. The latch snapped open by itself. Eli felt his heart leap into his throat. The binding stone revealed itself in a glow like captured lightning, smooth, shaped like a river stone but heavy with the presence of something ancient. It hummed. A vibration he could feel in his ribcage as if testing the air. Why is it doing that, he asked. Silra's voice trembled so violently the leaves on the trees shook. It's choosing. Stones don't choose without ceremony. Something's wrong. Eli's hand hovered uncertainly as the stone descended another inch in its cradle, glowing brighter, like settling deeper into a socket in Silra's very being. Make it stop, she begged again. But this time the desperation in her tone made Eli's stomach twist. Please, Eli, help me. He'd spent years alone, Years talking to cattle, to sky, to empty air. Years thinking nothing in the world needed him. Now here knelt a giant bride, terrified, trembling, pleading with him. And something inside him snapped awake. He stepped closer, planting his boots firmly in the dirt. "Tell me what I need to do." Silra's eyes, enormous gray as storm clouds, locked onto his. In them he saw trust, hope, and fear all tangled together. "I don't know," she whispered. "But if it roots too deep, it won't just bind me to your land. It'll bind us, both of us, for life, for fate, forever." The stone pulsed again, louder this time, cracking the air like distant thunder. Eli didn't flinch. Maybe he should have been scared. Maybe he should have backed away. Instead, he raised his hand toward the glowing stone, toward the force shaping both their destinies. "Then we'll face it together," he said quietly. And as his fingers brushed the stone, the valley held its breath. Everything, the binding stone dropped another inch, and the glow bursting from its runes washed the valley in harsh white-blue light. Silra gasped loud enough to shake pine needles from branches. Eli felt the hum of the stone echo through the air like a living drumbeat, rattling his bones as if trying to shake something loose from inside him. He jumped back at first, any sane man would, but instinct pulled him forward again. Silra's massive fingers dug into the soil, leaving trenches as she fought against the force dragging through her. Her braid had come loose in places, strands of golden hair whipping in the wind created by her own trembling. "It's choosing," she cried. "Eli, it's choosing too fast." Her voice wavered with a blend of terror and something deeper, something that sounded like regret. Eli planted his boots in the dirt and reached again for the satchel. For the stone. Heat radiated from it, but the warmth wasn't a burn. It felt like standing too close to a forge in winter, uncomfortable but alive. He could feel the pull now, faint but growing, tugging not at his skin but at something behind his ribs. "It's not supposed to work like this," Silra said, breath trembling. "The stone should rest until the union ritual. It shouldn't be searching. It shouldn't be calling out." Eli glanced up at her, jaw tightening. "You said if it sinks too deep, you're stuck, forever. I'm not letting that happen." Her enormous eyes widened. "You can't stop a stone once it awakens." "We'll see about that." The stone trembled inside the satchel, light blasting outward. It felt almost aware, as if turning its focus on him. Eli steadied himself and climbed onto a boulder near Silra's hip. Up close, she looked even more frightened than from below. Giants were supposed to be fearless. But Silra's breaths came in ragged waves, her skin shimmering with sweat as the stone pulled harder. "Eli, don't touch it," she whispered. He put both hands on the satchel straps anyway. She flinched as if he'd put his hands on her skin instead of leather. "If you try to pull it out while it's descending, it might..." "It might what?" he asked. "It might bond to you," she said, choking on the words. "It might bind us both without choice." Eli stared up at her, dust swirling around him. "Maybe choice doesn't matter if it's hurting you." Her breath caught in her throat. But before she could reply, the stone pulsed again, shaking the air. Eli clenched his jaw and yanked on the strap. The world went white. A shockwave knocked dust and gravel outward. Eli stumbled but held on. The stone resisted like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Pressing down instead of lifting, his arm screamed in protest. He braced his boot against the boulder, gritted his teeth, and heaved with everything years of ranch work had carved into him. A crackling sound like lightning splitting a tree trunk shot through the air. The stone jerked upward 1/2 inch. Silra gasped. The tremble in her. Limbs eased just barely. Eli could see her shoulders loosen, her grip in the dirt relaxing. "It eased," she whispered. Eli had actually eased. He had no time to celebrate. The stone flared violently bright. The runes spiraled, twisting and moving like living glyphs. Light slithered outward, thick, glowing tendrils curling around Eli's wrists in an instant. He tried to yank his hands back. They didn't obey. "Eli!" Silra tried to reach for him, panic stretching across her features, but she froze with her hand inches away. "I can't. If I move, I'll crush you." The spiraling light tightened around his arms, creeping upward like vines. Eli gritted his teeth as warmth, no energy, poured into him, filling his chest with a sensation halfway between terror and awe. The stone spoke. Not in words he could hear. In words he could feel. 2 hearts, 1 root. Silra jerked, her eyes widening as if she felt the same message. "Eli, it's linking us!" The current of light split. One stream shot upward, sinking into Silra's chest. The other dove inward, sinking straight through Eli's sternum. Heat blossomed inside him, spreading through his ribs, his lungs, his spine. It wasn't painful, but it was overwhelming, like standing too close to a wildfire. Silra clutched her chest, face contorting in shock. Eli felt her heartbeat, massive, thunderous pounding inside his own. And she felt his, small, fast, frightened. The warmth didn't stop at their chests. A single synchronized pulse thundered through the valley, blowing loose leaves into the air. Then everything dimmed. The stone's glow softened. The spiraling light faded from Eli's arms, leaving faint glowing tracings like temporary scars. The stone hung quietly in the satchel, no longer fighting, no longer pulling. Silence stretched. Eli staggered backward, breath shuddering. Silra slowly lowered her hand to the ground, touching the soil as though testing if she could still feel it independently. Then her eyes, storm gray wide, confused, met his. You feel it too, don't you? Eli swallowed hard. Your heartbeat? She nodded. And yours. Eli took a slow breath. The warmth in his chest matched hers exactly, like two fires lit from the same spark. What did it do to us, he asked. Silra shook her head. Binding stones attach a giant bride to land, to a territory. But this... She touched her chest again, her fingers trembling. It didn't bind me to soil. It bound me to you, and you to me. Eli sat down heavily on the boulder, staring at the soft glow still lingering in the runes on the satchel. Can it be undone? Her expression softened. Fear, yes, but something else mingled with it now. Something almost tender. No, she said. But it can be shaped. The bond is shared, balanced. Equal partners. It reflects intention, emotion, connection. It will grow where we let it grow. Eli let out a shaky breath. So, we're stuck with each other. Silra lowered herself slowly, gently until her face was close enough that he could see the shimmer of worry in her eyes. Not stuck, she murmured. Linked by what you did. You didn't run. You reached for me when even my own kind feared the stones. Her voice wavered, but not from pain. I don't know what that means yet, but I don't feel alone anymore. Something warm lodged in Eli's throat. He didn't have words. He barely had breath. Neither do I, he managed, voice rough. The stone glowed faintly inside the satchel, a soft, satisfied thrum echoing from its runes, as if approving the truth between them. The wind picked up again, gentle this time, carrying the scent of pine through the quiet basin. And for the first time since Silra appeared on the ridge, the ground beneath them felt steady.